Hey folks, Craig Danger, vinyl record player. Oh, back in 1975, underrated, must have. I got 5 of these LPs. Some classics, I believe, and maybe not as rated as you might think. Certainly albums that aren't talked about a lot these days. I mean, hey, these are getting to be 50 years old, true, but we got some classic music here today. So you know what? We want everyone to make it through this video safe and sound. So naturally, you'll need to buckle up. And we're back. I'm just going to cut right into these albums. You know what? I mean, we got 1975. We're still in that peak period as far as I'm concerned. Disco is starting to rumble in, which is, again, not as much of a fan of that era, but there still will be some very underrated, I believe, LPs from 76. At the very least, I'd like to even pull it into 77. We'll see. Why don't we start with this? Let's talk about, of course, Roxy Music's 1975 Opus Siren. Bit of a, I'm going to say not completely underrated LP. In fact, I think some people might even argue that this is rated. But do we talk about it that much anymore? I don't think so. Is it a must-have? I think probably. This album, of course, comes 3 albums from the departure of Brian Eno, who kind of brought us sort of an experimental, artier edge, rather, to Roxy Music. And this is basically Brian Ferry's baby at this point. Fantastic playing all over kind of this album. A lot less, like I say, glammy and arty than some of that early stuff. Even a little bit of an embrace of disco. Of course, that being with their first, one of their first sort of really bigger hits, at least in America. It wasn't huge, but Love Is the Drug kind of leads off this LP. A little bit of a sort of a funky disco vibe to that one. Obviously a classic. But there are other ones on this one, like Sentimental Fool, Both Ends Burning. Of course, on the cover, who's this? Oh, this, in fact, is, at the time, Brian Ferry's girlfriend, Jerry Hall. Jerry Hall, you might know, of course, as being the wife of Mick Jagger for a long period of time until he decided, you know what? I only like women who are under 25, which, unfortunately, being that Mick is 80, apparently has just happened within the last decade or two. Hey, I mean, you can't account for tastes. It is what it is, but Jerry's looking good on this cover. Of course, he's rocking the Siren sort of a look. Naturally, I mean, as you probably know, the Sirens were sort of a mythical creature that called out to ships in order to basically smash them into the rocks. They were hot babes, but they were evil hot babes, and those are really the worst kind of babes when you think about it. But again, here's the back on this, of a little pencil drawing of the players. Phil Manzanera, Andrew McKay, Roxy Music is all here. This, like I say, is 3 albums from the Brian Eno departure, and it's basically more of them as a straight-ahead pop band. But you know what? It's really good. It's not the easiest record to settle into. You're not going to be like, oh man, bangers from corner to corner. But again, really good band. And again, this is not one that they talk about very often, but I would say that it is definitely one of their classics. Roxy Music, Siren from 1975. Both a must-have, and in some corners, a little bit underrated. And I just wanted to mention again, thank you to everyone, to all of my viewers, subscribers particularly, and people who are liking the video. Huge stuff. I think we just passed something like 1,200 subscribers, which is mind-blowing. I mean, this dude was at like 200 like last year. Not kidding. So I don't know what's going on, but hey, like I say, very thankful to all of you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you have not. Hugely helpful, and helps me get out these videos talking about really insanely classic music. It helps me get out the videos to as many people as possible. So yeah, if you have any unheralded or underrated classics, heck, you even want to talk about some classics from 1975, just put them in the comments. I always love the chatter. Like I say, super knowledgeable audience that I'm cultivating here, and the Danger simply loves it. So again, thank you to you. This one, I mean, what? How about Barbara Mason? How about Love Is the Thing from 1975? Yeah, you know what? This one was a complete blind buy. Obviously, if you know anything about Barbara Mason, you know probably her first sort of real appearance in popular music would have been roughly 66, 67, where I believe she maybe even wrote, but she definitely performed the classic Yes, I'm Ready. Ooh, oh, super old school banger, but really, really classic sort of love song, Barbara Mason. But you know what? She just kept on recording. She did a couple of soundtracks, I believe, between 70 and 75, but then she releases this one. I picked this one up in old Winnipeg, Manitoba, as a matter of fact, and wow, this one is absolute classic, cover to cover. This is basically around the era when there was a lot of cheating albums, and let me tell you, this is an adulterer's buffet, friends, an adulterer's buffet. So basically the whole album, classic songs all over it. Of course, the lead-off track, ooh, amazing song, Shacking Up, you know, because hey, we don't need to get married. You don't need to get papers on a man, as they like to refer several times. Papers on a man, I've discovered, it means, you know, you're married to them. Sometimes that doesn't mean anything, especially on a cheating record like Love's the Thing. Of course, you got other classics like 1, 2, 3, You, Her, or Me. Apparently Barbara, big fan of the handsome sort of player type, because wow, there's cheating all over this record. Another classic, of course, So He's Yours Now. Yeah. I mean, it happens. You're gonna be dealing with these players. This is what's gonna happen, Barbara. But you know what? This is again, Barbara looking good on the back too. Really, really good sort of mix of both Southern and Northern soul, but there's no real disco elements on this, which is great, which is fine, because there really comes a time right around 76 where the records start to sound very much alike. The production on this is phenomenal. It is kind of a slower record. There's not a lot of upbeat bangers on this one, but again, wow, just there's one man between us. So anyway, it's like I say, a bit of an adulterer's buffet, but I've listened to most of Barbara's LPs between about 70 and 75. This one's a winner. This one's the absolute best as far as I'm concerned. If you do see this one, absolutely pick it up. There's no way this is a sought after record. No one's like, oh man, you know what 1975's Love's the Thing? Said nobody. Said Craig Danger. That's about it. But you know what? Ooh, really good record. Unfortunately, this is also not streamable. Like I say, that's the beauty and also the pain of soul is that some of these records just never really got licensed, and you know, frankly, a lot of people don't care, and those people are fools. Unfortunately, like I say, there's some phenomenal music on this, and Barbara is of high quality voice, sounding great as usual. But again, Love's the Thing, absolute adulterer's buffet. I'm gonna say it a third time, friends, right here. But again, if you see this one, like I say, it's not gonna be an expensive record, but picking it up, that's where you're going to run into trouble. This, of course, would be on the Buddha label. And Barbara Mason coming out in 75, strong with, in my opinion, an absolute 5-star cover-to-cover classic. Barbara Mason, Loves the Thing. Underrated, oh yes, but must-have? Please. Absolutely it is. Like I say, particularly because you can't even stream this big dog. So there you go. Another one from 1975. I don't know. I like to talk this LP. You know, it's not just because of the amazing cover art. I mean, obviously, we're riding a horse that's armored. We're on some sort of a sand planet, as one might be if one was kind of a mythical knight of sorts. But anyway, Graham Edge Band. Who's Graham Edge, you might be saying? Graham Edge, of course, would be the poet laureate of the Moody Blues. Also their drummer. But I think it was around 73, the Moody Blues, of course, sort of took a little bit of a hiatus for a while. They recorded, I believe it was the Seventh Sojourn, sort of the end of what is known as their Magnificent Seven LPs. And of course, Graham Edge is like, what am I going to do? In 75, a couple of the members, of course, released Blue Jay, Justin Hayward, and it's escaping my memory right now. I'll put it over the screen. Anyway, they recorded an album called Blue Jay. Graham Edge is like, hold on, brothers, hold on. Let's, what about if I put together a band with who? How about with Adrian and Paul Gervitz, who at that time, oddly, were actually also in the band, the Baker Gervitz Army. So this album, of course, is, like I say, beautiful cover. Take a look at the full sort of epic, super 70s. I mean, you know, if this was the 70s, you can bet that Craig Danger would have this painted on his van. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about that little crescent moon window in the back. Absolutely, friends. If the van is rocking, all right. Anyway, but on the other hand, as you can see, some classic stuff. Look at the mustache work on here. Great beards. We got, of course, Graham Edge himself. Man with the curly afro here. Oh, Adrian Gervitz. And let me tell you about Adrian Gervitz. Man can rip. Man loves to play a guitar and is not shy about doing a little ripping. And you know what? All over this record, really good. Adrian Gervitz does actually most of the singing. This is basically 4 songs written by Graham Edge, 4 songs written by Adrian Gervitz. I mean, you got Bareback Rider. Really great way to start out the LP. You've got Lost in Space. You've got My Life's Not a Waste. Oh, this one is actually, there was a period of time, probably in the past couple of years, where this was not streamable. It is streamable now, so you can actually check it out. You could definitely check it out on YouTube, but if you have Spotify or you got YouTube Music, you can check this beauty out. But you know what? It's fun. It's kind of proggy. It's very poppy. If you like the Baker Gervitz Army, or I believe it's a 3-man army, was the Gervitz brothers before that, you're gonna love this. It's fantastic. Really good songs. Really, so like I say, a little rock, little pop, little prog at times, but always very, very good. And you know what? This is just such a fun album. Whenever I get the opportunity to listen to this one, I mean, cover alone, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'm gonna check out the Graham Edge Band featuring Adrian Gervitz, which is, I believe this is. I forgot to mention the name. This, of course, is the Graham Edge Band. Kick Off Your Dirty Boots from 1975. An absolute underrated. I mean, did you know about this album? Who does? Really? Let's be honest. And of course, underrated, and yes, definitely a must-have. It's just such a fun album, and like I say, cool as hell if you can actually pick this up. This one did not sell a lot, as you might imagine. Obviously, Moody Blues fans who are real hardcore might have bought this. Maybe Baker Gervitz Army fans, although there weren't a lot of them, despite, again, the immense quality of the Baker Gervitz Army. But yeah, Graham Edge Band featuring Adrian Gervitz. This is Kick Off Your Dirty Boots from 1975. An absolute unheralded classic, I would even say. So yeah, available out there. If you can find it, you might even be able to get it for under 10, because again, nobody knows this, nobody buys it, but it's great, and available on streaming as well. Of course. Woo! That's a triple owl hoot, friends, for my friends Gwen and George McCrae. Oh, legendary couple. You can see the gorgeous couple on the back. Of course, you might know them as individual players first. Of course, George with the absolute sort of proto-disco classic Rock Me Baby from 74. Oh, and then Gwen comes out. Gwen comes out a year later, releases how about the most sexy song ever recorded? I'm talking about Rockin' Chair. And you know what? They're just blasting out the hits. Well, really a couple top 10 hits on the Cat label, Miami, a little bit of Miami soul. They were like, well, you know what? Why don't we record an album together? And actually, pre this album and pre actually their individual sort of success, these guys have recorded duets going back even to like 65 on various labels. They joined up with the Cat label. All of a sudden, they both have top 10 hits. They record this album together in 1975, release it. Beautiful work. Again, produced by Steve Alamo and the gentleman who wrote almost all of the songs on this, Clarence Reed. Ooh, Clarence Reed, also known as Blowfly. Really fantastic songwriter. And this is an absolute cover-to-cover, banger upon banger classic. And it just is one, in my opinion, definitely one of the best duet albums ever recorded, but definitely the sexiest album ever recorded by a married couple. All right, that's fair. I may be, admittedly, narrowing the boundaries here of why it's the greatest, but it's still great, and that is a fact. This, by the way, is available on streaming if you want to check it out, but really fantastic stuff. The only downer really to this record, again, cover to cover, I mean, you've got I'll Do the Rockin' we start out with, a Mechanical Body. Ooh, Gwen, again, and I've said this before as well, Gwen McCrae, just an absolutely stunning voice, very sexy, just a piling the sexy on all the time as Gwen. And of course, George has just kind of got this strange sort of, he doesn't have a lot of octaves. Let's just say George, not big on multi-octave ranges, but he's got a real sort of vibe and style to himself. Sad point about this LP, of course, is that this album's called Together. Within a year, Gwen and George would be divorced, unfortunately. After they basically, I think they got married in about 63, so they've been together for about 12 years. You know, sometimes success, it brings with you a little bit of cocaine and a lot of women. I'm not saying it was George's fault, but if you had to guess, what would you think? Anyway, George and, of course, Gwen McCrae together, 1975. Again, this is a classic. This is not easy to find. I do have a copy. Again, this one is on the Cat label. I also have a Canadian copy released on the RCA label because I wasn't a huge fan of the Cat pressing. The RCA pressing is better if you can get a Canadian version. But again, it's not going to be easy. This album did not sell butt kiss. And like I say, by 76, their marriage was done. And it's unfortunate. I mean, like, look at the sexy here. There's a whole pile of sexy. So the McCraes, really, George and Gwen, 1975. A must-have, obviously, also underrated. And of course, for the fifth of my underrated and must-have classics, I actually don't have a physical copy of this particular jam, so I'll go ahead and throw up the picture of this really, in my opinion, absolutely epic, albeit a little bit low-budget looking cover of Thin Lizzy's Fighting from 1975. Now, if you're from England, it's possible, or if you're a big Thin Lizzy fan, you might be like, well, what are you talking about underrated? But if you're like almost every North American who basically is like, oh, it's Jailbreak, right? Jailbreak, Boys Are Back in Town, and that's all the music they ever did, you'd be wrong. You'd be very wrong. Unfortunately, what happened was with Jailbreak, the album, is that basically it was released, huge hit. Boys Are Back in Town is a monster hit. They're going to go on tour. Phil Lynott, Lynott, the lead singer, Irish poet extraordinaire, he gets sick for like about a year. And basically they can't go on tour, they can't tour the record. The career kind of in terms of North America. But previous to that, they basically begin to form up their sound on 1975's Fighting with, just some amazing stuff. Got the dual guitar attack that they sort of begin to incorporate into their sound really heavily. Brian Robertson, Scott Gorham, just a riffing, and it's a beautiful harmonized guitar sound. If you do know the album Jailbreak, you obviously know them quite well. On Fighting, they begin to sort of formulate this sound, and it is amazing. This is sort of regarded by many as the beginning of the true Thin Lizzy sound with the dual guitars. And frankly, Phil Lynott is absolutely killing it all over this album. Oddly enough, opening the LP with Rosalie, a cover of Bob Seger's song. But you know what? They absolutely own this song. Apparently they had just been on tour with Bob, and this would probably be pre-Bob being very huge. Of course, it wouldn't be until Bullet Live, that album, that would really kind of, and I believe that was also released in 75. Not underrated, that one. But I'm telling you, Fighting, absolutely. I mean, you've got Fighting My Way Back. Oh, that's a good one. Rosalie, again, absolute classic. Freedom Song. This is basically a cover-to-cover classic. And that's mainly because the dual guitar attack is always going. Phil Lynott is becoming the immense rock star that he would become, at least in Europe and Britain. And unfortunately, because he did get ill after the Jailbreak LP, unfortunately, they didn't really get an opportunity to really cash in and become the huge band I think that they deserve to be in North America. But Fighting, if you see this one, and the reason why I don't have a copy of this one is Thin Lizzy is one of those bands where, at the time, people were like, so they didn't sell a lot, at least in North America. And then now that people know who they are, they're like, oh my God, Thin Lizzy are the rockin' best. So you find any of these records in any used record store, you're talking about $25, you're talking about $35. But I am going to try to secure myself a copy of Fighting. Still, I think, if not my favorite, then maybe my second favorite to Thin Lizzy's, of course, Jailbreak, which, of course, phenomenal album. The sort of hit aside, obviously the hit is great, but wow, really good stuff. But again, Fighting, 1975, great ass cover, Thin Lizzy, legendary band, and again, it really is a must-have and super underrated. Like I say, in North America, it was all tumbleweeds for Thin Lizzy until, of course, their next album, which would break them, but unfortunately could have break them a little bit more, and it never did. But so yeah, that's it. That's it for my 5 underrated, I'm going to say also must-have LPs from 1975. Thank you again for tuning in. Like, subscribe. If you're still here, I mean, come on, what you doing? Press a button for the old danger. Press that button. Let's go. But otherwise, yeah, again, thank you very much for watching, sticking around to the end. And hey, I'm definitely going to see you on the next one.